most original talk radio station anywhere. We are LA Talk Radio at latalkradio.com.
You're listening to Fuché Way with Brandon Fouché, right here on LA Talk Radio.
Well, hello, and welcome to the Fuché Way radio show, live every Thursday at 1 o'clock p.m., sponsored by the nonprofit organization called Canine Hope for Improvement Program, where we hope to improve the quality of our dogs' lives by moving towards a no-kill society. Well, good afternoon. You know, I have always said I'm not for everyone. And what I mean by that is, if you're not having problems with aggression and your life with your dog is fabulous, then you don't need me with my concepts and my beliefs. But if you are having problems and have not been able to get help in the traditional ways, then you're at a crossroads, and I'm probably for you. I will say it again. If you're not having problems with aggression and things are wonderful for you and yours, I don't want, nor is my intention, is to interfere with your relationships. You don't need me. It's as simple as that. But I am asking you, don't discourage people whom you cannot help from getting help by saying negative things. If you can help, then help. If you can't, then move on. But don't tell people they should kill their dogs because you can't help them. Just tell them they should keep looking and keep their dogs safe in the meantime. I could never understand people who say they love their dogs, and then they tell someone else who loves their dogs that they should kill them, and then criticize someone for trying to help. You know, there's always going to be someone new, someone different, someone better. That's just life evolving into something more to make it easy for someone else to live. Maybe you like the old way and someone else likes the new way. It's okay. I mean, whatever floats your boat. We should try to find the good in what someone is trying to do that's good and extract it, then move on. You know, I respect people with strong, positive mental attitudes when it comes to protecting what they love. For me, it shows character. People who can forgive and move on because God knows I've had to. And to dwell on things that people have said about me and they don't know me or understand what I have gone through in life, I don't think I would ever be able to help dogs. So with our first caller, we're going to talk about a problem that took place between two people and their dogs that could have led to a dog losing their life. And my first caller is Andrea, and she has a dog named Cookie. How are you doing today, Andrea?
Just fine.
That's fine, okay. You know, look, I want to kind of set the story up. I wanted you to tell us about Cookie, and I want to go back to that day. I believe it was a holiday. You decided to take a walk with your dog, and you saw that garage door at the bottom open up when you saw that dog squeezing through. Can you kind of tell us about that?
Yes, it was Labor Day weekend, and we just decided that my husband and I were going to take the dogs for a quick walk, and 3 doors down, we just, as we were approaching that house, I noticed that they had their garage door vented. It was kind of warm outside, so they had their garage raised just a little bit up off the ground, and we were just walking our dogs, and all of a sudden, I hear this noise, and when I turn my head, I just see this big dog sliding underneath the garage door, and just immediately attack our little dog, and very scary. And initially, you know, we tried to not be startled and act like we were fearful, and just kind of greeting the dog and that kind of thing. And it all happened so fast. I mean, the dog and our dog is very passive. He probably waited, just a little peekapoo, and just sat there for a minute and did the courtesy thing and let the dog sniff. And her dog took a sniff and then decided to grab my dog around the neck, and then it proceeded to be a very ugly event.
Wow, I mean that's something horrible to watch,
Yeah, it was very brutal, and a lot of people tried to intervene, and there just was the dog was not relenting, and it was just a very brutal, scary event, and it just, to me, I'd never really seen anything like that, and the owner, Diana, she runs out, and she's trying to get a water hose, and other neighbors were coming across the street and hitting the dog with sticks and poking and kicking, and meanwhile, the big dog was whipping, flipping, just basically kind of like a rag doll, just literally tearing my dog up. I mean, It was really horrible.
How did it end? How did it stop? Do you remember?
Well, the thing is it was such an intense moment. We had two little dogs, and our other little dog didn't even weigh 5 pounds, so I had scooped her up, and I was so upset and hysterical, and my husband was finally just told me I needed to. He basically, whenever he started dragging, at the end of the attack, he started dragging our dog, which Cookie looked lifeless at that point, and he was just dragging the dog, and I thought the dog was dead, and my husband did too, and he just said, you need to, get back to the house, and then all of a sudden, he just said, when I started walking up, all of a sudden, Diana's dog let go, and my husband just grabbed our dog and ran up, and I guess our dog was in shock and lost a lot of blood and so forth and so on, but we really don't know what made the dog relent. I had my back turned at that point, so I really don't know. I don't know if Diana knew what finally got the dog to let go. The only thing I could think was I truly believe that her dog might have thought that it killed our dog and just finally let go.
Wow. And,
it was pretty brutal.
Yeah. It's always horrible, especially if you have to witness this thing and you're in a helpless situation where you just can't stop it. I mean, I've been through that.
Yeah. You told me that. It's terrible. And what was really scary is that the dog was being so brutal that I was very hysterical, and I didn't know. I was also scared for my husband's well-being because the dog was so aggressive at that point. You just didn't know if the dog was going to let go of our dog and attack somebody else. So it was just a really heightened emotional scene, very aggressive.
A lot of neighbors around and so forth.
Yeah, it was a holiday weekend, so everybody happened to be home. It was Labor Day, and so a lot of people were in their garages and so forth. And I mean, I have to say that it did feel very good to know that people I didn't even know were rushing out and trying to help. There was a few people that I didn't know, and they just really, they came immediately and started trying to break it up, because my dog never even did anything. He literally just sat there.
Sure.
He didn't retaliate at all. He just, submissive, I guess is the word they call it.
Yeah.
He just
overpowered.
He submitted and, yeah.
I had you on, Andrea, because the story is really interesting because you were able to actually get a chance to find out who Diana was after this attack. I mean, because this is very important because a lot of people, they don't want to talk to that person. They don't want to deal with that person. They just want to get revenge. And your story was different. Can you tell our listeners?
It was just initially when I met Diana, I was really emotional, and my husband was trying to take care of the dog, and people were rushing into our garage to find out what was going on. And she came up, and she just immediately said, "I'm so sorry," and she started hugging me, and I didn't know who she was. And then, then she carried on to say that she was so sorry, she don't know why her dog did that, and then I realized who she was. And initially I was a little like, I was a little standoffish, and then, it wasn't about revenge or anything towards her. It was just, my main objective was I just wanted my dog to be okay. Mm-hmm. So, she just kept telling me she was sorry, and I knew she was. I mean, and dogs are unpredictable, and I knew that it was a freak accident because it wasn't like the dog was just outside playing. The dog slipped out, unintentionally. It just happened so fast. And all I did was say that, all I want you to do is take care of my dog, As long as my dog's okay and you take care of my dog, then we'll be fine. And, she was very emotional, and, you just can't blame the other person like that. There's no rhyme or reason. And, why do you think winning a big lawsuit is going to make what happened any better?
Well, most people go right for the lawsuit. I mean, they want to sue for the behavior of dogs and just make, the dog pay. They want the dog destroyed. They want to, sue that person.
Initially, I was a little concerned because we have young children as well, and there's a lot of kids in our neighborhood. And, I did want a report filed with the dog control and everything because, we wanted to make sure proactively that it didn't happen again. Mm-hmm. And there were some neighbors that were really emotional and were really kind of taking it out on Diana, and I felt kind of bad for her, and they were telling her she needs to put this dog down and so forth and so on. And initially I was a little concerned, and to be quite honest, I was concerned for her because she said she'd never seen the dog be that aggressive, and I was thinking, this nice, attractive lady, and she's got this dog, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, she could have really gotten hurt as well. Mm-hmm. And I was worried for her well-being as well. And, but she was just so proactive and just went above and beyond. And I just I felt like she needed a sense of comforting just as I did, because it was just as traumatic for her as it was for us. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And, I just think there needs to be more people like her. I mean, she, the situation was very emotional and heated, and I was trying to get something done, I didn't know. I don't know if I did. Diana could probably remember. Mm-hmm. I don't know that I told her she needed to put the dog down. I just said that I think that the dog needed to, she needed to have the dog evaluated or something like that. But, she took that by the reins and immediately just started taking steps, and she kept me in the loop the whole way. She checked in with the dog's progress, and I kept her abreast of everything and as well. And she just is one of a kind, and there really needs to be more people like her, because from what I understand, I mean, her dog has been rehabilitated and has turned out to be a good dog, and it's because she has taken the lengths that are necessary to do those things. But a lot of people just don't. Mm-hmm. Society is just so different anymore. People they don't care about anybody else but themselves, and that's just not how it's supposed to be.
Right. And we are different today, the way we think and the things that we do. And I remember years ago, we didn't have these kind of problems with our dogs, you
communicated with people. If something was, somebody lived down the street from you, and you knew that person. If something was wrong, you communicated with that person, and then you figure out how to get taken care of. And people have just become so bitter and angry and spiteful, and it's just really a shame. I mean, as you can tell, I'm from the South, and I've lived here only a couple of years. But, it's a lot different there, I do believe. And you take the time to get to know the people that are around you. And if something like that occurs, you care about that other person as well. I mean, I just feel like society has gotten a little out of control.
Wow. I can't tell you enough how that makes me feel to hear you talk like this and say the things that you're saying. And I think that people are listening should really take heed to this, because after everything is said and done, and in this case the dog lived, we have to move on, and we can't carry this type of cancer in us. We have to understand that this is not something deliberate that the person did, and that they are sorry, and that they don't need to continuously be punished for a mistake. Dogs are dogs, absolutely, as you mentioned. And
right, they're just unpredictable creatures, and you just take proactive steps to make your pet a good pet. Just like if you have children, you take the proactive steps to raise good, abstaining children, and those steps are required for pets as well. I mean, in my opinion.
Yeah, because we make mistakes with our kids too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
You learn and you move on from that, but you just can't. I always heard this saying growing up in church and different things, and I just it takes so much more energy to be negative and to hate, and than to not be that way. And
right.
So I don't want to spend my precious energy on negativity and hate. It's just wasted.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just rather be proactive like Diana was and do the steps and fix the problem.
There you
go. And so.
Well, Andrea, I had Diana on the line too. I wanted her to be somewhat a part of this with Luca. And Diana, I wanted you to say hello. This is Andrea online.
Hi, Andrea. It's Andrea.
Actually, Andrea, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I'm from the South. We say it a little different.
Yeah.
Andrea, yes.
So, I mean, this is wonderful. I mean, you two have come together. You've mended, this broken bridge. And you're friends now, and you think highly of each other. That's very unique, and I thought that was worthy for you guys to come on to the show,
Yeah, I feel very, very fortunate.
Wow, that's great.
Well, and the thing about Diana is that she would just continually tell me that I'm the nicest person, and I'm so sweet, and all these things, and it was almost uncomfortable because, to me, I just think that that's just part of being a good human being. I don't know, I just thought that to me that should be the norm. And it just shows you that it's not the norm. And,
Wow. Well, more people should be like you. More people should be like you. And,
yeah. I knew you were like that right away. And I was so thankful that despite such a horrific thing that had happened, that I was so fortunate that it happened with such kind people like you and your husband.
Wow.
Because it would have been 10 times worse if you had not been that way. And it's very emotional just hearing you tell the story. I'm very emotional just thinking about that day.
Right. Well, Diana.
Oh, it's hard.
Yeah.
Well, and it's just as emotional for you as it was for us. I mean, you have nightmares and different things, and, that's what people need to understand. It doesn't just affect, you got to think about both sides.
Mm-hmm. Well, Diana, you've been very active since this, just as she said, and, I'm going to tell people again, go to the Facebook and look at Luca. You'll see pictures of him there with a little tiny dog, and, she's moving right along. She's done everything that she could probably do to try to help this guy, and he's doing just well. So I'm going to continue to check in with you, Diana, and you continue to bring him to me, and I'm so happy that Cookie is still around and that,
oh, yeah,
she's enjoying her life.
Too.
Okay? Thank you for coming on the
show. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you for coming on the show too, Andrea.
Yeah.
Oh, you're welcome. Anything to help the cause. Absolutely.
Fantastic. All right.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Okay. Thanks, Brandon.
You're very welcome. Thanks for coming on.
Bye.
All right. Well,
bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Our next caller is Marla and Claudia. Are you there?
Hi, Brandon. Yes.
Hi. How's it going? Well, this is a happy story here. Even though there's a fight involved, there's a happy story here because Claudia had rescued this dog named Honey, which is a pit bull, whom was having problems with dogs, and she came to me, and we've been dealing with Honey, and she's been doing just wonderful. And she was at Marla's with Claudia, and Marla has a dog named Bella, and Marla has been very diligently working the Fuché Way and doing everything exactly as I asked her to do with her dogs. And these two are together, and this is a perfect example of positive reinforcement, love and affection that can create aggression through jealousy. And can you kind of tell us about what was happening? Let me ask Claudia first. What were you doing when these two got into a fight? Claudia?
Well, I went to go visit Marla, and I was there visiting Honey, and I was giving her all my love. I was, babying her and everything. She was, going all over me, and I was sitting down on a seat, and then Honey was kind of, on me, and then I was giving her all this love, giving her the kisses, giving her the baby talk, and then comes by Bella, wanting the same affection. And then I'm like, oh, do you want some love, Bella? So then I start giving her affection, and then Honey does not want any of that either. She just wants the attention to herself. So then Honey kind of jumps over her, kind of like, bugging her a bit. And then Bella does not like that. So Bella just kind of like barks at her to warn her, like, don't, get into my space. And then Honey continues, and then Bella, starts like a tussle, and they both get into it. Wow. And then my first instinct is to separate them because I don't want them to get hurt. I don't know who's going to get hurt. But then down comes Marla from the stairs, and she tells them both to stop, and they both immediately freeze. And she tells me first to not do anything because I could easily get hurt too.
Right, by sticking your hands in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, Marla.
Yeah.
You've been doing everything, man. How do you feel about that?
What's that?
How do you feel about that? You were able to verbally stop that fight.
Yeah, I don't know who was more surprised, me or the dogs. Because I heard them downstairs. I had just gone upstairs for a minute. And in retrospect, I realized, oh, yeah, I should have seen that coming because Bella's extremely demanding of attention. If anyone's getting affection, it has to be her.
Right.
Yeah. And, and she wanted some too, and Honey didn't want to share. And I was upstairs for a minute, and I heard them downstairs, and I was coming down the stairs, and Claudia was reaching toward them, and I said, don't touch them. And then I yelled at the dogs, hey, really loud, and they just stopped. They both just froze. And Bella pancaked on the floor. and then Honey just backed up. And I thought, oh, wow, all righty then.
Well, this is what I mean by all the things that I'm asking you to do with your dog on a daily basis have prepared you for this moment. And I mentioned to you in the very beginning that, this day at some point will take place. And you will be prepared for this,
Yeah.
And a lot of people get in trouble with multiple dogs because they feel that they should be able to give equal love and affection at the same time with dogs. And the biggest problem with two dogs is jealousy. Doesn't mean that you can't do it, but there's always a chance that this jealousy is going to lead into an area that's going to get crazy. And I always like to humanize things. And like I told Claudia, just pretend as though she's with her boyfriend, and this chick comes over and she's all over her, and he's like, well, honey, I should be able to do this. Give her some love and you some love too. That's not going to fly. And it's the same thing. You know, could you see that, Claudia, that jealousy created that?
Oh, yeah.
And you can tell how you were producing that, too. Making them excited, talking baby talk, right?
Yeah.
Is there a kitty over there? So, you know, I know, how does that make you feel? I mean, I tell you that you have to be careful about that thing, and you've experienced it now, so you know. It's difficult, but how important is it, Claudia, to tell young people who are out there adopting and fostering dogs?
Well, it's just, I know, like, we have every intention to want to save these dogs who come into our lives, and we want to give them all the love because we have this state of mind where it's just like, well, they've had a difficult life, they were probably abused. I need to give them all the love possible, buy them all these toys, you know. Why should I discipline her when she needs all the love? And that was my state of mind. And so, but it just turns into me not being respected. Mm-hmm. And it's, I need to be respected by her in order to, you know, have a good relationship, have that me be the leader, mm-hmm. not them,
right?
Not her.
And you were practicing the training and the treats?
Just because, what was that?
You were practicing the training and the treats too, right?
Yeah. And then I even said that I would, you know, do the whole sit, and then just because she didn't sit, but she was looking so cute, I'd give her one anyway. You know, she was looking so cute. She was making an effort, so I might as well give her one, right?
Right. And
that was my state of mind of like, give her all this love, give her a treat. She probably didn't have, no one probably gave her any treats, but it's just because I want to become respected and, you know, not get into that whole give her all these treats, give her all this love, and instead become the leader, become respected. Mm-hmm. I'm gaining something instead, not losing her love. She's still going to love me regardless.
Right, exactly. And I want to ask you one other thing. How did you feel when Marla was able to call from the staircase and stop that fight? How did that make you feel?
Oh my God, I was stunned. It froze me too. I was stunned. I was just like, oh my gosh, how did you do that?
Right. That's very important.
She did that halfway up the stairs, and both of the dogs just like froze, including me.
Yeah, that's so wonderful.
I was just.
Well, you've learned something today.
There was no need to interfere. Mm-hmm. There was no need to any of us get hurt or, you know, them continue to attack each other or whatever. Mm-hmm. It was all just she was able to get into their head and control them that way.
Right. And, you know, I want to say something to our listeners, too. These are two females that are, they're powerful. In fact, there's three females there, big dogs. And when people say that two females can't be together, you've got three alpha females that are living under this, you know, they're together, you know. So it can be done, and it doesn't matter whether you're a big guy or a little woman. I mean, this is about getting into your dog's mind and controlling them emotionally. And that's what it looks like. That's what the Fuché Way looks like. And so I want to thank you, Claudia, and thank you, Marla, for coming on to talk about that, because that's a very powerful thing. I mean, you should feel emboldened by now by doing that. You know, yes.
I probably froze just as much as anybody.
You did
when I saw them stop.
But you know, the fact that you did that, the fact that you stopped that, makes you know those dogs even more now.
Yeah.
You get to know them more. And that's why I say when dogs come to my place, there's going to be some kind of altercation at some point, but that's all part of the rehabilitation. If they don't get into something, then how can we say that the rehabilitation is taking place? You know? I mean, that's the reason that they come. And so I just wanted to bring you on. I wanted to commend you and congratulate you for following the Fuché Way. And this was a perfect example of everything that I've been telling you brought you to that point. And I just want to say thank you. Okay?
Thanks, Brandon.
All right. You're very welcome. Thanks, Claudia. And
thank you, guys.
Keep up the good work.
All right. Yay, Marla.
Okay. All right. Well, our next caller is with Kathleen. She goes by the name Kat. She has a beautiful dog named Romeo, which I would love for people to go to our Facebook page to take a look at this beautiful guy, along with Honey, the pit bull that we just talked about. But Kat, how are you today?
Hi, Brendan. Good. How are you doing?
Very great. You've got a very interesting story. I mean, this is not something new to you with this dog, Romy. You've been through a lot. Can you kind of fill our listeners in on this beautiful guy that you've got and what you've been going through? I mean, your life has been like a prison.
Oh, I know. I have so much to say, don't I?
Let's do it.
I don't want to overwhelm people, but he's beautiful, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
And today, you know, he was at your facility yesterday, and today I feel like I'm starting to understand him for the first time, really understand what he's about.
Well, let's talk about the past.
And I don't know how you see it, but I've just been looking at the videos over and over, but I see him, he's like a little lamb, and I have taught him to put on this protective armor and become this, you know, dominant dog. Just, he learned this aggression basically through what I've done, how I've handled him, what I did to try to fix what I thought was a problem with him.
Well, let's talk about the beginning, when this first started. I mean, how long have you been going through this problem?
Well, I got Romy when he was 12 weeks. I got him from a breeder, and he was adorable, fell in love with him. My husband loves him. Brought him home, and the first week we had him, he seemed perfect. But I wanted to get him used to grooming, so I would lay him across my lap and comb him out. And I would get to the hindquarters, and he would give me a growl and really give me a quite vicious snap. And so much so that I really never experienced that. It just seemed something more than just the regular puppy growl. It had an edge to it. So it bothered me, and maybe in particular it bothered me because I had met the dog dad, and I had experienced nothing had gone wrong the first time I met him. He came bounding out, and I was sitting down, and he came over and threw his paws over my shoulders and just looked me in the eye. And I just thought he was adorable. I thought that was the cutest thing. And then the second time we went to see him, he was on his grooming table. And when I went over, you know, he had the loop around his neck, and I just didn't think twice. I just went right up to him and said hello. But he kind of looked at me in a way that gave me pause.
Now, this is Romy's father.
You know, that was Romy's father. Okay. But, you know, I registered it, but I didn't quite know how I felt about it. But I just put it in the old memory tank.
Right.
And so when Romy reacted that way, and I saw this little edge, it made me think about the dad. There could be absolutely no connection. I don't know, but I had this little gnawing worry. What's going on? Could there be some issue with aggression with my dog? But, you know, I asked different people about him, and they said, oh, he's fine. You're worrying too much. That's just a puppy. He'll grow through it. And for my part, I would persist in finishing the grooming and maybe sort of put my arm on him and hold him down. And we worked through that, and everything seemed okay, but still it gnawed at me. And I did a lot of research and read a lot of literature, and it looked like, well, maybe there might be some dominance, but he didn't quite click with the regular dominant type dog. But I did certain things like spit in his dog food, and it sounds ridiculous now, but I was really worried because my sister had an aggressive dog, and I didn't want my dog to be aggressive. So I put my hands in the dog food. I taught him to wait until I put his dog food down. But all while this was going on, I was treating him like a little prince. I didn't see it, of course, back then, but we had been warned that the parvovirus was exceptionally virulent that season, and so I carried around the dog a lot I didn't put him down on the ground until he was finished with his parvo inoculations. Even though we went out, he wasn't on the ground. And I had this idea that he was going to be my little companion that I could take everywhere. So I really did, from the onset, want to socialize him, but was warned not to get out there really till he was about 17 weeks and his inoculation period was done.
Yes.
But in the meantime, we did get out there, but I was carrying him. Whatever that said to him, I don't know. And when we brought him home, we were living in an area that was up against a state park that had burned a couple of years previously. So we were having a real coyote problem, serious coyote problem. And a lot of the neighbors were losing small animals, and not because they were irresponsible, but because the problem was so bad with the coyotes. It could be noon and they were out barbecuing. And, you know, California's stucco fences are pretty high. But the coyote could scale that fence, and you wouldn't see it coming, and the cat could be next to the owner, and the coyote could grab him in a split second and be back over that fence.
Exactly.
So when we brought Romy home, I was probably nervous, you know, and then to back up even further, we had lost our poodle about 6 months before that, and we had all mourned her loss, and so I probably wasn't quite through that, and I know it's different for everybody, but it might have been too soon to get a puppy, so I wasn't coming from my strongest position, if you will. But he was home, and I was extra protective of him because of the coyote. I couldn't leave him, you know, alone in the backyard or anything like that. And then, too, he was ingesting things, anything that I dropped. And now that I understand things a little clearer, probably that indicated a strong prey instinct, because as the bag would drop, he would go for it. Or it was just a puppy thing, don't know. But the point is, he was constantly going to the vet to get these things out of him, and the vet would induce vomiting. But it made me nervous. And so it just starts self-perpetuating. And I think, you know, when you're trying to establish yourself as the alpha, which before that, prior to that, I'd never really thought of myself as a weak dog owner. I thought of myself as, you know, a pretty strong dog owner. But I think it was sort of a perfect storm of sorts. Me starting in a weak position, the environmental circumstances, the coyote, Romy with this little growl, the ingestion, and then, too, we spoiled him. We just thought he was so cute. He began throwing his paws over my shoulder and licking, and we loved it. We just thought it was the cutest thing. We even said, and we didn't teach him to do that. He just seemed to automatically do it from the time we got him, and we just thought it was cute because we called it the Turbo Hug, because that's what his dad's name was, Turbo.
He's so big. He's so big and tall. You know?
Right. And so we stayed home for a few weeks, or I did, to get him acclimated, and then I had a niece that came for a couple of weeks to help, and then I went back to work, and I had to bring in a pet sitter because I couldn't let him go outside to do his business with the coyote problem. And everything was fine, and I would express my concerns about this puppy growl with her, and she said, you know, just relax, it's normal, don't be so uptight. So I tried to relax and think that maybe I was just blowing it out of proportion. But then after about 4 or 5, I backtrack. Then when he was done with his parvo, I decided there was a puppy kindergarten class I had enrolled him in. But then the instructor called and said, we didn't get enough sign-ups. But I said, well, I would consider hiring you for private training, because I felt like maybe that would be a good idea in case there was some aggression going on. So when the trainer came over for the first visit, I showed him how Romy acted with the other dog. And at that time, I guess my other poodle was 11. And this poodle had come from a rescue. And he might be a little bit atypical. He didn't really try to dominate, and he didn't really submit. Mm-hmm. He just sort of was there. And Romy would try to play with him, but he just really wasn't interested in playing. And then Romy would get more aggressive and start grabbing at the ears. So when I showed the trainer what was going on, at first he said, no, he's just being a puppy. He's just playing. And then he saw Romy go for Andre's ears. And so he said, but that's not okay. So you need to correct him for that. And so I reached out for Romy, and Romy snapped his his head towards me with the, that vicious little thing that he had going on. Mm-hmm. And the trainer said, no, that's not okay. And so he went to grab Romy, and he really got the growl. And this is like way beyond anything I had ever seen. Mm-hmm. So it was disturbing, and that trainer kind of bopped Romy under the chin really hard. And I, of course, didn't like that because I didn't want my puppy to get hurt. But I thought, well, maybe with this dog it's required. And I guess we went through about 3 or 4 weeks of some sort of obedience training. But I really just didn't like the jerk, the yank on the leash method of training. Mm-hmm. And in about 3-4 weeks into it, we decided to take Romy to an outdoor mall. And when we got there, we saw another little poodle that looked just like him. And as we approached, the owner came towards me, and we discovered that they were actually brothers and sisters. Mm-hmm. She was from the same litter as Romy. How about that?
Wow.
Small world. So perfect, right? Mm-hmm. And not only that, they lived in the area that we were planning to move to. Mm-hmm. So this seemed wonderful. We could start socializing Romy with this dog, and then when we moved to the neighborhood, there she'd be for him. Mm-hmm. Well, it didn't go so well. She was a little barky, but Romy was a little lungy. Mm-hmm. And so, what do? You pull the dog back, right?
Right.
And but still, I thought, well, he's a little behind in the socialization. And the trainer that we had said, oh, I'd risk the parvo to socialize my dog. And I say, well, woulda, shoulda, coulda. Right. I would too now, but I was trying to be a good pet owner and do what I was told. So it's too late for that, but we'll get going.
Yeah.
But meantime, Romy's sister's mommy said, hey, I've got this great guy, and he maybe does a little bit like what you do, mm-hmm. Brandon. But so I took Romy down, and he said, yeah, leave Romy with him, and I think I see where he's coming from, and we'll get him there. He's a little bit behind the curve, but we'll get him there. And so that was great. And so once a week I took him, and I think it was about the second or third week I went and picked up Romy, and he was just sounded like he had glue in his throat.
Yeah.
And long story short, he had gotten pneumonia. It was I guess the Corona 2 virus. Wow. So he was very sick. We had him in intensive care, and he was there for about a week, and of course that drew out even more of my motherly instincts, treating him like a baby, and coddling him.
Wow.
And which, again, you go back to how do you establish yourself as a leader. And mind you, all this time, Romy, for instance, was actually sleeping at a level above us because we had a cow king bed at the time, and we put the extra pillows at the back. He started in the crate, but after a few weeks, we moved him to our bed because that's where our other poodle had slept, and there had never been a problem.
Now, let me ask you, how old is he at this time, Kath?
At the time that he's on the bed, I guess we'd had him for about 6 weeks. So he's about 18 weeks old. About 4 months?
So about 4 months, because I'm going to
move. So this is all happening in parallel.
Yeah, but I'm going to move you faster because we're rolling with time. How many people did you employ to help you with this dog?
Well, I was counting the other day, and probably about 5 different trainers, plus about 5 other ones that we either got assessments from or consults with.
Okay.
And you know what? They all meant well. They really did. I mean, most of them did, with the exception of maybe 1 or 2. They loved Romy, and in particular one I just am so thankful for, because she's so committed and very passionate and compassionate, but we just never got there. We never got there. We started with the we started with the obedience training. Then we went into the reward training, the reconditioning, with the behaviorist, and we were, treating him, giving him treats. And so if he'd see a dog that he'd want to kill, we were giving him treats to recondition his response to that dog.
Right.
But you know what? It wasn't working. And 6 months into it, and at that point he never wore a muzzle or anything. 6 months into it, we knew that he was acting aggressive, so we did take precautions. But 6 months into it, he bit 2 people.
So how many people has he bit since you've had him?
Well, I say he bit 2 people, but prior to that, there probably were, 5, 6, 7, 8 times that he'd lunged at people, but he would lunge, retreat.
So how did you feel when you decided to come to me? I mean, I'm sure you're at your wit's end at this point.
Oh, yes, because no matter what we did on the one end, in other words, and the last trainer, I was understanding the hierarchy issue, really working at that, but it did nothing towards curbing that aggression in him. The more he sat there looking at those dogs, the more he wanted to go for them. And also, I guess you call it the old-fashioned way of using the pinch collar. And, I didn't like doing it, but at the end I had 3 different trainers, and they all said that was the method they were going to employ. And so I thought, well, maybe with an aggressive dog, this is the way we need to go. I'll do my best to get behind this. But inside, I really didn't want to do that. But I just felt I really had no options. But then towards the end, and my trainer actually got to the point where she said, I feel bad taking your money because, we're just not getting there. And I'll take Romy as a test case. And I said, please don't give up on us.
Right.
But, I just got to the point where I think as humans are, we tend to resist what we don't get any positive feedback from. And even though she was kind of teaching me about hierarchy and I was trying to be more dominant and be more of a leader, no matter how much better I was getting, I couldn't see that his aggression towards dogs or people was dissipating.
Right.
There seemed to be no correlation. And then I saw on the news just last Thursday, so not even a week ago, a little teaser ad about what happens or what makes good dogs go bad.
Right.
And so that sparked my curiosity. And then I got your name. I called you the next morning. You said, watch my seminar video, listen to some of my radio shows, and call me back. This socialization thing that you do, this extreme socialization where you're able to let the dog off the leash,
right,
and then the dog really is. So you start with understanding who is the dog.
Right. So
then you allow the dog to level off.
Right. Kat, I'm going to stop you because our time is rolling, but I want to say I had Romy with me, and everyone has misdiagnosed this dog. This dog is not genetically dominant. He may have some in him, but it may be a 2 or a 3. But everything that he has in him is learned, and you have seen that now by watching the video and seeing him at my place.
Yes.
We're not done with him. I am happy to know that you are in a good place right now, and we're going to move right along with Romy, and we're going to have you and him back on the show to talk about his progress. I just want you to tell our listeners how you feel about where you are now, and then we're going to end the show.
I feel really good. I see Romy. I sense the calmness in him. We've used some of the techniques you taught me yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen an immediate change in him. He's let out that exhale that you hear dogs do when they just feel calm.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I don't normally hear from him if I ever have.
Wow.
And it's wonderful to hear.
So you feel strong now.
I just hope we just keep going down this road.
Oh, you're going to keep going because you're going to keep plugged in. But the main thing is I want to show you how to become strong, and you feel that, right? You feel strong.
So much, yes.
Well, that's good. You know, I want to thank you for coming on the show. We will have you on again. I want you to keep following, keep listening. You have been Fouché'd. Okay.
Yes, thank you, Brandon.
And we've got the T-shirts out now, so you're going to get a T-shirt too, and I'll be talking more about that, and we'll have it on the Facebook page. Okay?
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you very
much.
Brandon. Bye-bye.
You're listening to Fuché Way with Brandon Fouche, right here on LA Talk Radio.